Welcome to a special edition of Inside the Sports Car Paddock from a very special paddock. I'm here at Suzuka Raceway in Japan for the Suzuka 10 Hours, round 4 of SRO's Intercontinental GT Challenge, de facto GT3 World Championship. 10-hour race to start in just a few minutes after I've recorded this. We, as always, are here with thanks to Cooper Tyres, with thanks to the Justice Brothers, but with particular thanks for this race to Audi Sport Customer Racing, who supported me to make my way from the UK for this great race. In recognition of that is a special show featuring the Audi efforts in a number of ways and with a number of people to talk about a number of things. Chris Reinke will talk about Audi Sport Customer Racing's products, the new GT2 car that just launched in North America just a few days ago. Marshall Pruitt, of course, with in-car audio of that car with Tom Christensen at the wheel. Chris also talking about the other products and more products to come from Audi. We get to talk to the drivers, of course, Markus Winkelhock, about the iterations, the evolution, if you like, of the Audi R8 LMS GT3 concept. We get to talk to about Christopher Haase and about the life of a factory driver in the GT3 era. And we talk to Kelvin van der Linde, South African star, looking forward to the final round of the Intercontinental GT Challenge at his home race. The first time we've seen international sports car racing in his home country, South Africa, in November. And we get to have a conversation with Team WRT's sporting director here, Pierre Dieudonne, 72 years young, the 1976 European Touring Car Champion. Pierre shares a few thoughts about how things have changed in the 50 years that he's been involved in the sport. He's a remarkable man. Hope you enjoy it. I enjoyed making it. We'll speak to you soon. The IGTC, one of the headlines of the Intercontinental GT Challenge is the involvement of just so many manufacturers' customer sport departments. Audi have been in the thick of that from the very start. Representation on all the big grids when these were standalone races, and now, of course, the main challenge. Chris Reinke with me now, the head of Audi Sport Customer Racing. Chris, this does seem to be the scene of quite a lot of success for your part of the Audi empire.
Well, for sure for Audi Sport Customer Racing, it has been tremendous success so far, the story of Intercontinental GT Challenge, and we do everything that story of success does continue. We have been obviously the last years going home with the trophy. At the moment, we focus on catching up to the leaders, but we have 2 races to go.
This place, Suzuka, very special place in motorsport, and it was great to see just half an hour ago a great example of a manufacturer activating at a racetrack. It's not something we've seen too much of in very many international championships, but you're here banging the drum almost literally for Audi in Japan, launching 2 new road-going models for them here in the home marketplace, but with the teams also being introduced to what I hope are going to be some new fans for the motorsport side of things.
Well, absolutely. For us, Audi Japan has always been very active using the platform of motorsport. If it has been back in the WEC days, where they always activated when we came into the country, and now they use us here in the Intercontinental GT Challenge. They also support the Super GT all year round, but especially activate when we come to town here into Suzuka. And as you said, it was a very positive example that they choose this venue to launch the new Audi RS5 Sportback for the Japanese market, the new R8, and even a special model, the R8 Decennium. So to launch all of that here at 10 Hours of Suzuka, it's been a privilege for us because it's a great support.
It wouldn't be a kind of customer-facing event if the head of customer racing didn't actually put his own plug in for a brand new product. And you did that rather neatly, I thought. Now a 4-car family in Audi Sport Customer Racing with the TCR car. A huge sales success for you guys. Similarly, the GT4 car, the R8 LMS, but now, as I know very personally, the GT2 car new to the marketplace. Marshall Pruitt saw that in action. I think we had cameras aboard the car with Tom Christensen at Laguna Seca just last week. Tell us a little bit about the reception for that car, and if you can, tell us about the level of interest you've seen so far in GT2.
Well, the level of success, the level of attention was overwhelming for us. Already when we did the worldwide launch at the Festival of Speed in Goodwood, we got so much positive feedback. People were excited in general about the interpretation of the R8 that we did there. But then in particular that we had the guts and took it onto GT2 level. So that has been very exciting, seeing it running up the hill, also there in the hands of Tom Christensen, with its sound momentum, was for sure exciting. And I think we still live out of a lot of good coverage, a lot of good pictures that we got from there. Now we had the possibility to take it to the Monterey Car Week, to California, to give it a US launch last weekend. And the story continued there. I think at the Kuehl we had the possibility to approach a lot of collectors, supercar enthusiasts. Next day, it's a reunion at Laguna Seca. Tom took it through Corkscrew and gave a couple of journalists a ride, and for sure a lifetime experience. And it was also there sensational to see it with its sound, to take its lap around that track of Laguna. And then we even have been knighted by having the allowance to take it onto the lawn to Pebble Beach, and we're part of the prototype lawn, which doesn't happen that often to a race car, and we were proud of that.
It's going well. We now know from the press conference that Stefan Rattel gave at the Spa 24 Hours a little bit more of the structure that we're going to see for GT2 racing, with sports club being rolled out not just in Europe but also in North America and Asia. That's, I would presume, where you're expecting, in terms of the racing part of things, a major customer base to emerge. Might we see it somewhere else? Might there be even a one-make future for this car?
Well, when we initiated this program, we thought about club racing, we thought about resort racing, we thought, usage without competition. Then when Stefan came up with a formula which he announced in Spa, obviously we were privileged that comes now on top of that business, and we are very much looking forward. At the moment, the customers who are in contact with us, I would say 80% are really want to use equipment for their own joy, for their own experience out on the track, and have just the ultimate Audi track car accessible. And then I think the icing on the cake will be those that go into competition and pick up on the offers of the SRO to run it either in Europe, US, or maybe even out here in Asia. For a one-make series, I don't see a reason. I mean, it's great for us that Porsche is out there, that we will join him in competition racing. Stefan said there are more manufacturers due to announce, so we're happy to run against that competition. And I would leave it from the Audi Sport Customer Racing perspective with that.
Where do you see the growth coming next for your product range? You've sold lots of cars and very quickly with just about everything you've launched in the time that you've been at the head of this organisation. Have we peaked yet with GT racing in particular? TCR racing is still growing as well. Have we peaked? Is there more growth available in this marketplace?
I absolutely believe in that. I believe our society is desperate for experiential themes. They want to have the track experience, especially the stuff that we miss out on the roads because we are stuck on highways. We have to discuss electric, autonomous, commute, whatever, and we want to live the combustion era out on the track. So for me, I'm absolutely persuaded there's more to go. I always said, as long as I'm at Audi Sport Customer Racing, I promise a product a year. I think we had a good surprise with R8 LMS GT3, and I'm looking forward to launch another surprise next year.
You're not going to ask the question, aren't you? Are you going to give us any hints at all?
Obviously not, otherwise it wouldn't be a surprise. But to be honest, that's not what it's about. For us, it's we have at the moment a huge momentum in this area of racing. We are ready to approach that we're ready to increase our volume output at Audi Sport Customer Racing, and we have a great job of doing it because it's exactly what our customers are desperate for. And if you get to see that many happy faces, it just keeps you going and makes you desperate for more.
We know the automotive industry is moving rapidly in a particular direction. I think you used the word experiential for your part of the market, if you like. That's still at the moment very much more traditional technology, and actually a more traditional way of motorsport dealing with that technology. Small teams of people, engineers, developing cutting-edge vehicles. How long is it going to be, do you think, before customer racing across the board, not just Audi but everywhere, has to start to see the opportunities that lie with the direction that the core companies are going in?
I think the two main driving factors for us are emotions and budgets. And at the moment, I don't see that the emotions are with electric drive, as they make sense. Those are rational decisions. There is a growth in that market for sure, and I don't see it as a emotional reasons to take a decision to buy into a customer racing product. The second driving thing is a budget, and at the moment to operate an electric vehicle on performance level takes first a lot of budget for the product itself, but then also to operate, because a classic team can run a combustion engine but cannot run a high voltage car. Not to talk about the initiative investment costs that such vehicle would demand at the moment. So when the moment is right, I'm sure we will be there. But at the moment, I gotta say the costs have to come down. The expectations of society have to go up. And then at one point, the emotions will swing around, and I guess acceleration will overcome the miss of combustion noise.
Final question is a personal one for you, really. Now, you've been with the Audi Sport family for some time now, operating at the very highest levels of international motorsport. We're now at a different era, another golden era, actually, with customer racing and these GT cars providing the entertainment right across the planet with names and brands that everybody can actually recognise. Do you feel the same amount of passion and of pride when you bring one of those trophies back to Neuburg and put it in that astonishing display?
Absolutely. Everything has its times, and it was great times to be part of the Le Mans paddock for many, many years. Now it's at least as exciting to run customer racing, and at the end it's all about racing. And when we go out on the weekends, it doesn't matter if we celebrate it with champagne at the Lazard or with Kölsch in the Eifel, the Nürburgring win. We go out to have the red rhombus fly off the podium, and as long as we can achieve that, we're as happy as we can be.
I've been lucky enough to join you for your Night of Champions at the end of the season for a number of years. What's the missing link for you, Chris Reinke, that you'd like to actually announce and have the audience applaud at the end of a given year? If it happens this year or next year, which is the one you'd like to bring home?
For us, I believe it's bringing home one of the big two. It's the sensational trophy of the Intercontinental GT Challenge, or it is kind of our major home race in Nürburgring. And if we tick one of those boxes, it's a great year for us.
We've ticked one this year.
So we're looking forward to a good party then.
Chris Reinke, thank you as always for your time on what's a very, very busy weekend.
Thank you.
Well, it's the turn of Markus Winkelhock to talk to us a little bit about the Audi Customer Racing family. But Markus, what I wanted to just take a few minutes with you about was the evolution of the Audi R8 LMS family. We're now in, the fourth iteration of this fantastic car that's won just about everything there is to win in GT3 racing down through the years. These things developed initially as a car that encourages pro-am racing, but we've seen some amazing performances out of pro drivers like yourself and like your Audi Sport Customer Racing colleagues. Just Where have we seen the advances in terms of making these cars easier to drive, perhaps for the gentleman drivers, and actually more challenging to get the real performance out of from a top pro like yourself?
The cars got, let's say, more easy to drive because like the ABS and traction control systems, they got better and better year by year. I remember when I drove the first time with an R8, it was 2010. I did the Nordschleife 24-hour race, and for sure the car was more difficult to drive at this time. And the performance thing was something completely different like we have now. And for sure the car is, we have 10 years of custom racing this year. And for sure we did a massive step in the last 10 years developing that car. And it's definitely what the name already says, customer racing. So, and it's for sure much easier, much better to drive for the customers. Since 2009 there is a massive step. But it makes it for sure also on one point it's the same for everyone, but the customers are getting closer and closer to the professional race drivers because they can brake very late with a good ABS system. They can go early in power with good traction control system, so it makes actually the life of the pros even more difficult to be still faster than the pros than the AMs. At the end we are still fast obviously, but what I wanted to say is like the gap between is getting closer and closer, because it's more customer friendly, the car. Yeah.
And despite the fact we're in a balanced performance formula, and because that of course reels in the cars, despite the fact that it is that compromise between what you need for a less professional driver and the top pros like yourself, the lap times keep coming, the performance keeps coming, the records keep falling. They do look exciting cars to wrestle round the Nordschleife Spa here at Suzuka.
Absolutely. I remember when I just said before, I did the first time 2010 in a GT3 R8, and I was just coming out of, or at this year I was still racing in DTM, and there was a big step between a DTM and GT3 car. And I think the performance we have now with the GT3 is actually, it's a long time ago, but it feels like more or less the same like DTM 10 years ago. The car is really, really nice to drive. We have much more aero. The car is much better balanced, and it's like, let's say, a high sophisticated race car compared to 10 years ago. And no, it's really nice to drive. I love GT3. That's why I'm doing it. We have many nice races all over the world, and I think. As I said before, we have 10 years of Audi Sport Customer Racing, and we proved that we were successful in any races, no matter we won, let's say, the biggest races all over the world, the 24 hours Nürburgring, the 24 hours Spa, Daytona, Bathurst. There are many more races we won all over the world, and I think that shows how competitive we were the last 10 years.
Again, GT3, it's such a huge marketplace now. There are so many of these big events, as well as a huge number of smaller events. Is this something you can still get excited by when you come here to these great circuits, to Suzuka, Kyalami next, and then onwards next year to another calendar with the same races back again? Bathurst, you mentioned, every time people mention that word, a smile just automatically appears. Daytona, you still get excited about the day job?
Absolutely, yeah. I think this is one of the reasons why I'm doing GT3. We are racing on so many different places and really nice racetracks, best racetracks actually all over the world, and this is what it makes it really exciting. And many race drivers. Actually, when we are talking, like they're like, it's so cool. Actually, it must be so cool to race in so many different cool racetracks, and absolutely, I love it. I've driven, for example, Bathurst. For example, I'm driving there since 2014 every year, and every year I'm excited to jump in the plane and go over to Australia and do this race. And this is the same with Daytona, Nürburgring, Spa 24 hours, and now coming here to Suzuka. And also Kyalami is I never have been there. My father raced there already in Formula 1 in the 80s, so I'm really looking forward to go there. And I'm still excited, and I still love it to go to racing.
We talk a lot about golden eras in motorsport. It sort of feels like we're in the middle of one and maybe not realising it right now with GT3. You come from, you mentioned already, a family with huge heritage in motorsport, with huge heritage at the highest levels of motorsport. Where are we at the moment in that kind of, when we look at the field here with 36 cars and some of these guys and the other factory teams, this is pretty high-level stuff.
Absolutely. This is absolutely highest level of GT racing. It's not a world championship, but I think it has the level of a world championship. But it's like in all categories. Like if you take the Blanc-Port Championship, if you take the ADSC GT Masters Championship, races like here, and they're sometimes coming really different race drivers from, let's say, for example, DTM, and they are also struggling. It's not like that a DTM driver is coming to 24 hours of Spa and
dominating. No,
exactly. And that shows that the GT field and the GT drivers, they are also very fast. Maybe it's a level below, for example, DTM GT racing, but I think that the level we are racing is the same. I think. So maybe lap time wise we are a little bit slower than a DTM car, but it has nothing to do with the performance and the level of racing, I think.
2 exciting races to come, and by the time listeners are hearing this, the Suzuka 10 Hours will be done for the year, and we don't yet know who's going to win, but we do know the Audi's on the pace. And then another big race, a revival of a race down in South Africa with your teammate Kelvin van der Linde at Kuehl. That's got to be something everybody's looking forward to.
Me for sure. I think everybody else. I think most of the drivers, they haven't been racing there, and so I think it's something new for everyone. And I think especially for Kelvin, must be great to do his home race in front of his, let's say, house. Almost, he said he lives like five minutes away from the racetrack.
Party at Kelvin's place, then. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, exactly. No, it must be a cool feeling for him. But if I talk to all the other drivers, everybody's excited to go there. So I'm really looking forward to be there.
Me too. Markus Winkelhock, thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.
Well, after the Audi Japan press conference, sitting down with Christopher Haase just before you go out for the pole shootout, Christopher, a few questions really about what it is to be a factory driver in the GT3 era, the opportunities, the huge races now, and the number of them that it gives you the opportunity to do. It's been quite a ride, hasn't it?
It's true. I mean, first of all, I'm really happy to be here in Suzuka. It's always quite a special race and a special event. But yeah, being a GT3 factory driver is something quite unique, I would say. We have, like you said already, many cool races. Actually, I would say one of the best, their best races in the world. So we race all over the world. We are racing on nearly each country or continent in the earth, which is which feels great. And we all race the same cars, let's say, at the same time. Which makes a very, how should I say, is a specific performance level which you reach at one point, especially in this, let's say, important races like Suzuka, like Spa, Nürburgring, and I just enjoy to do this job at the end.
You're seldom seen at a racetrack without a smile, and that's probably because these are cool cars, and the cool places we get to see you race, 24-hour races, of course, in Spa and Daytona, the Nürburgring, 12 hours in Bathurst, what a fantastic race that is. And now we have this new era with the IGTC, bringing you to 5 races, 5 different continents. That's something that seems to be growing, and Audi very much a force in that.
Yeah, that's true. First of all, it's because this is, I think, quite a high-level series which goes around the world in one championship. Let's say all the other big races which you said are single events, and here we are doing, let's say, a whole championship on the whole world. And we have like lots of factory-supported cars here, extremely high level from teams, from drivers, from the factories. And this makes it, I would say, it's growing to one of the toughest championship in GT3 business which you can have.
Yeah, The other thing I guess about being a GT3 factory driver is you're not necessarily with the same team or with the same drivers from week to week. And that means not only are you doing the thing that we know all endurance race drivers have to do, which is to compromise across a 2 or 3 or even 4-man squad, but you're going to learn, again maybe, the relationships with some of those teams and some of those drivers. Does that make it tougher? Does that make it more interesting?
Well, let's say for us drivers, I mean, I just can speak for us, for our Audi Sport driver pool, which I think we have a great pool, a great driver lineup. We all have like fun together, but on the other hand, we also fight together. And this, I don't know, I just enjoy how we race each other, how we handle this in different teams, let's say. But it's true, we also switch different teams in different races. And there is, let's say, the challenge is just you always have to adapt to some new circumstances. But at the end, a GT3 car is, I would say, not so complicated. For sure, you have to always, you need the right to bring the car in the right spot. But we have great Audi teams, we have a great driver lineup, or let's say a driver pool. And at the end, if everybody focuses his job, you have the chance to win.
Careers are about staying in good cars with good teams for a long time and winning big races at this level. You've won a lot of big races. What's still on the Christopher Haase wish list? Which one would you really like to take on that's not there yet?
Yeah, it's true. I can say that I actually made a lot of hooks already on some races, but I'm definitely missing, for example, Daytona, the 24 Hours of Daytona. I had a couple of chances to win it, but it always went, unfortunately, a little bit wrong at the end, which is endurance racing.
You've got to get that watch.
Yeah, for example. And the other thing is the Bathurst 12 Hours. Still the same there, I already had the chances to win it, but the good thing is you just have it in your mind and you keep going, you keep trying, you want to win it, you try it each year, and at one point maybe I have the chance to do this also.
You've got to make me one promise, and that is when you've won the Daytona 24 Hours, because that clearly has to come at some point in this career, there's one call you have to make, and that call is to Alain McNish, so that you can show him the watch.
Yeah, Alain is my hero. No, it's true. Actually, I have to say Alain McNish is a really outstanding driver. And he's still, even if he's not racing, it's so great to talk to him, to speak with him just about racing and how he is seeing stuff. But definitely, if I get this watch, I will call him straight away.
Christopher Haase, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
In the Audi drivers' room, after qualifying but before the shootout, but with the current, for the moment at least, lap record holder for the Suzuka 10 Hours after a fantastic lap in that qualifying session from Kelvin van der Linde. Kelvin, congratulations on that. Looked a fantastic lap. Let's talk a little bit about Suzuka first. This is a special place.
It definitely is. It's my second time here. I've been lucky enough to come for the inaugural race last year. So great to be back, of course. New lineup, new team for me. Great to be with WRT. I have a lot of respect for the team and what they've done. So yeah, it's cool to be a part of that, and hopefully we can go 2 better from last year.
I don't want to talk more about Suzuka with you because I think there's an even more exciting race for you coming in the IGTC, this Intercontinental GT Challenge. It is 5 races, it is 5 continents. The big news this year, of course, is we're going to Africa, we're going to South Africa, and it's a revival of an historic race, the Kyalami 9 Hours.
Yeah, fantastic. I'm super excited. I never thought in my career that I would actually have a home race. It came as a bit of a surprise when it was first announced, I have to say. But to see the reaction and the positive vibe around the event has definitely been overwhelming for me. Seeing the home support behind the event is cool. And at the end of the year, normally I go back to South Africa anyway for my usual holiday, go visit the family and that. And this year I'm going back for a race. So it's a unique feeling, and I would love to go and win.
We don't know a lot about the track, but very few of us have been down there to see it since the revival of the circuit. Tell us a little bit about the facility. Tell us a little bit what to expect when we get down to Kyalami later this year.
Well, it's been a massive development that's gone on there. Porsche have taken over the property, and you can see, just by everything that they've done, they've really made it a business concept in terms of the driving academy. It's all their Porsche events are there now, their club days and so on. The track is at as high a spec as I've pretty much raced on in my career. So in terms of asphalt and everything, it's up there with some of the best F1 tracks in the world. And I think back to the level that it deserves. It was such an iconic track back in the day, seen some great races in the past, and to have that kind of legacy coming back now, the 9 hour is something that's deep in the heart of all the endurance races, and something I look back fondly on. Watching some of the old videos back in the day definitely gives me an extra beat or two. So yeah, it will be cool to be part of the history now going forward.
South Africa has got a proud heritage in racing, and particularly endurance racing. Tell us a little bit about the kind of local vibe around this race coming back.
Well, I think what makes it unique is that we just haven't had a big race there for quite a few years. I think the last one was probably World Superbikes, which was probably 2012. So, we're looking at almost 10 years ago since we had a World Championship style event, and I think Intercontinental is the perfect event to come back and kind of re-spark that passion that South Africans have for motorsport. Where, even though rugby and cricket is a big part of our heritage, I think motorsport is for many people still, a reminder of how good it was in the past, and it brings us back to the good old days. So my father and grandfather playing a role in that, and now my younger brother and myself now coming and hopefully doing a good job in the inaugural race will be a cool one. I think it'll be well anticipated by everybody back home, and I just hope I can give them a great result.
Does strike me there's an opportunity here for South African motorsport. It is having two flag carriers with you and your brother. We've seen this with other motorsport markets in New Zealand, with Brendan Hartley, for instance, and with Tom Christensen, and that fantastic heritage that's given that great nation in Denmark of endurance racing drivers. What do you think? Might we see another generation coming and snapping at your heels on the back of having a blue ribbon event in the home country?
Yeah, well, I think that's basically what we need at the moment. When I first came to Europe, it's probably 6 years ago now, I was the only South African at that time, trying to make the first steps at a European career. And now, we've got quite a few. I think we've got 5 guys here, and I think 3 or 4 factory drivers. So, it's definitely taken a step since I made my first strides to Europe. And that's the kind of influence we want to make, for the young karters and the grassroots coming up. It's a proud thing for me. I try and help as much as I can back home, giving them advice. We didn't go the typical route of shooting for F1. I think for a South African background, you have to begin modestly, but as we grow it up and we build it up slowly, the sky's the limit, I think.
Final question is about that national pride aspect. A lot of your teammates have got their home races that are big races already. Markus Winkelhock is with us here in the room. Christopher and the other Christopher both have it. Dries Vanthoor has that. What's it going to mean to you to actually go head-to-head with your peers from around the world on effectively your home track with the possibility of a top step of the podium? You've got a big smile on your face as I say those words.
Yeah. Honestly, I have to smile. It's so proud for me, already just talking about travel arrangements, stuff like that. I just want to go show everybody my cool country, because I think a lot of people don't believe, what kind of a gem we have down there. Africa is a little bit like Australia. We're a little bit separated from Europe and America in terms of, we're not always seen as being the trendsetters, but definitely that doesn't, set us apart in terms of racing talent or from sporting talent in general. So I'm just excited to go there, and whatever the result is, I'm gonna enjoy it. My family's gonna love it, so we're gonna make the most of the week for sure.
Good stuff. We look forward to seeing you out there. Thanks very much, Kelvin van der Linde.
Thanks for having me.
Well, in what's a very noisy Suzuka 10 hours paddock, huge number of fans here already, we've come to the relative calm for the briefing room with sporting director of Audi Sport Team WRT, Pierre Dieudonne. Pierre, it's been a heck of a day so far. We're here in qualifying day before we get to the shootout, but records already tumbling. Your guys and the Audi boys across the piece are doing extremely well out there. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the lessons from history, and for the benefit of our listeners of maybe a slightly younger age than me, you are a multiple championship winning driver, multiple Spa 24 Hours winning driver with a variety of makes. Tell us a little bit about some of those career highlights. I think I'm right. It's been more than 50 years since you were a European touring car champion.
Yes, that's correct, because that was 1976, and I got involved as a driver in the early 70s. So the first thing I would say is that I'm very fortunate to be alive, and secondly to be still active in this fascinating sport.
Not just active, but Team WRT has been a phenomenon since the start with Vincent Voss and his partners with this, and bringing in a range of very talented guys of all sorts of eras. There's been race win after race win, title after title, and still it comes. We've got a weekend now where you guys are very active in two very significant race meetings on two continents. The reason Vincent's not here is because
he's at the DTM race at Lausitzring.
Okay, and we're here with let's face it, a potential race-winning squad for you guys. Great-looking car again, with a very talented driver lineup. Let's look back though over those kind of 50 years. Should say not all of it with Audi, of course, but what lessons can you bring from what the sport has taught us over those decades to where we are now? It's a very different time in terms of the way in which the business works. Certainly, I guess one of the first questions is about safety. These cars are immeasurably safer than they were.
Well, fundamentally, it's a lesson of life, because we are in a completely different world altogether, not only in motorsport, but in life in general. So for the younger audience, it's hard to understand or to realize what we went through or how the sport was 50 years ago. And it brings back me to my old age, when we were talking about pre-World War II motorsport, and it was completely different. So today it's just another world.
You've got plenty of experience, not just in motorsport generally, but motorsport here in Japan. For a long time a driver with Mazda, and some real success there. Some class wins in Le Mans with prototypes, but also touring car wins too. The technology then seemed very cutting edge, but by comparison with what you're dealing with now in the garage, must seem pretty old tech now.
Well, the technology in itself, of course there is the evolution, but today there are a lot more restrictions, because we have things like BOP. There are a lot of things. The sport is much more controlled, technically speaking. So at all times, motorsport was really a fantastic inventing world for engineers, and that I think has not changed, but I think the engineers had a lot more freedom in the past. So today is more what we can do to take the maximum out of very restricting regulations.
We know from all the times we come here to Japan that there is nothing quite like a Japanese crowd. The enthusiasm for the sport, the enthusiasm for the history of the sport is pretty unmatched in world motorsport here. I don't suppose that's changed from your days here in the 1990s with Mazda.
No, the Japanese fan have always been fantastic, because they come to the race. Over here we have very often typhoon and very bad weather. Sometimes the races are cancelled, and they always come in large number, whatever the conditions. So that's fascinating to watch. We have a bit the same in America. I think the motorsport fan in America are much more fun than in Europe, except in the UK, because also the fans in the UK are a special breed.
We're very mad.
Yeah, correct. But there are still those differences from one continent to the other.
So what you enjoy now? I mean, to keep coming and to keep doing what you do at the level you operate, you have to stay enthusiastic. What fires you up about the sport nowadays?
Well, I would say it's the privilege to still be involved and work with young people, because that's very refreshing, and because they know what I've been doing, basically the same as they do now. I mean, I'm talking about the drivers. So there is still that kind of respect. You are an old nut, but But you are not treated completely as an has-been. So this has been, for me personally, or it is very first challenging because it motivates me to stay on top of the game. And I must say those last 10 years, because I joined WRT right at the beginning, so it's 10 years ago, already 10 years ago, which is
it's amazing.
Which is nearly a career in itself. And those 10 years is like another life for me.
It's a strange thing. We have people now that are saying, I remember Vincent Vos when he was a driver.
Yes.
It's 10 years ago now.
And then right at the beginning of WRT, because also a very important key of the success of WRT is the partnership with Audi. And it starts with GT3, and Audi, of course, was winning at Le Mans, but they were new to customer racing when they start with the R8. So we've been growing together, and this relationship also is something very, very fascinating to work with, because it's like a family. And also, what I remember from those 10 years, and especially in the beginning, is we had the privilege to do the 24 Hours of Spa with Dr. Ulrich. And we could really feel the passion that sparks inside Audi Sport. And I always remember, by that time, I think we won Spa the first time with WRT. I can't remember if it was 2013 or whatever. But the first time we won, Dr. Ulrich was in the pit for the complete 24 hours. He was with us, and I could remember when the car went by and crossed the checkered flag, he was crying.
Of course.
And you could see, you could see he was crying, and I just found it unbelievable the level of passion and the commitment of that man.
Despite all that success.
Yes, despite the fact that he had already won Le Mans sort of 10 times.
It's inspirational. It must be inspirational.
Yes. That's the special thing about motor racing. You know, you get that. You get the passion, you get the thrill, you get the excitement, and that's what pushes you forward.
Last word is about this Intercontinental GT Challenge. In many ways, it's back to an old-fashioned sort of championship. It's not a world championship, but it is a global challenge. And clearly what they're trying to build is a championship built around huge events. And that's coming. You can feel it here. Bathurst is a huge event. Spa, you will know from your long history, is a massive event. Is this working?
Yes, it is working. And there we have to pay respect to Stéphane Rattel, because in his world is a visionary. And he built GT3, which together is probably the most successful and most healthy motorsport category, and he's still building it worldwide, and that's the Intercontinental GT Challenge, what it's all about, and getting all the manufacturers involved into those big events, which are classic, because we've been to Bathurst, here we are in Suzuka. This race is very famous in the middle of the Japanese summer, and we're going to Kyalami, so Kyalami is reviving the 9 hours, which is also a very classic race around GT3 and Intercontinental GT Challenge. So it's fantastic to see the rebirth of such a global competition.
Last question is this. It's one of those kind of... You've earned the right to answer this question, either as a senior member of Team WRT or just simply as a legend in your own right. What's missing from WRT's trophy cabinet? What race would you like in your time with this team and with Audi Sport Customer Racing? What would you like to bring home?
Well, probably the next one is Kyalami, because it's a month away, and we tick a box when we won the Bathurst 12 hours, and of course Spa we've won Nürburgring 24 hours. So, but there are so many races there. I'm sure there are more boxes to tick, or we will find some more in the years to come.
That's a proper legend. That's one who's not going to commit himself just to winning one race, it's all of them. Pierre Dieudonne, thank you very much for your time this afternoon.
Thank you to you.
In the Audi Sport team, Itochiyama truck with, well, Japanese racing legend, but, solidly Brit and Northern Ireland man, Richard Lyons. Richard, it's one spectacular event, a spectacular track, and you'll probably know more about this than most, even the Japanese.
Yeah, well, thank you first of all. It's quite an historic event. It's changed its name in the last couple of years. As you say, Japanese racer. Actually, I've been using a Japanese racing license for the last 19 years.
Wow. So
even whenever I've been racing across the world, normally on the entry list, my name comes up with a Japanese flag. So, I'm almost Japanese. Can't really speak the language that much, but coming back to this event, it's fantastic. Yeah.
So how many times do you reckon here? We spoke to an awful lot of the guys from the European teams. It's their first, maybe a second time. But
for this event itself, I think it's been 18 years.
Wow.
I've been doing it, but of course it's changed to the 10 hours from the 1,000-kilometre race. But I've been doing it quite a few years.
Now, you're one of a very exclusive club, the winner of the Super GT, or the Japanese GT Championship, and what the then equivalent of Super Formula in the same year. Very few men have done that. But you've had this long, storied, and pretty well uncut kind of history in Japanese GT racing for many years now with Audi, and here in, the biggest GT race of the year, I guess, for the international group at the now Suzuka 10 hours. Tell us a little bit about being, if you like, the European who's the local in this three-car effort.
We've been very fortunate that Audi have come along to do this, and they've seen the value, and I guess the SRO championships that's been around the world now, and it's become such a big thing. But as a partner, our team wanted to join a very strong partner, and the team, the father of the owner, Mikio Tsutsuyama, he fell in love with the Audi brand, and he wanted to bring Audi to the racing circuit in Japan. That was probably now 7 years ago, and that's really built up that relationship in the last 7 years, and it just came to the point that actually we could join forces for the Suzuka 10 hours, and last year was a fantastic event for us. We really enjoyed it. We were running as high as fourth. Whenever you're running as high as fourth, and for me, like one of my local circuits, but with Audi Sport, Audi Customer Racing supporting you, it's a fantastic feeling, and for such a small local team as well, having the big guns behind you, it's great. But this year again, it's a little bit of a smaller effort, which actually helps us even more. I feel it's a much tighter sort of a family knit thing. So we're expecting big things as the weekend goes. So far this weekend's been really difficult conditions, but this is Japan at this time of year. We normally get heavy rain, we get messy weather conditions, so I think we might get some sunshine for the rest of the weekend.
Well, maybe this is where that local knowledge kind of comes in. You're absolutely right. There's no dry running until the practice session we've just seen. The Audis, two of the Audis won two. The pace is therefore in the car, but you're the team with the local knowledge. Is that going to come to play?
Nowadays it isn't so much like that. Of course it helps, absolutely it helps, but I feel that the teams are so well organised now. All the drivers are on simulators, engineers, they've got all simulated programs, so that nobody arrives here not prepared. Of course, I have had Markus Winkelhock, who's one of the most experienced drivers out there, coming to me yesterday, and he's asking me questions about the circuit, but he's already been here and he's already been on the simulator, but he's still picking the brain of somebody that's done thousands and thousands of laps around here. So there is certain conditions that we will have a slight advantage, let's say, but I never underestimate the competition these days.
Talk a little bit about GT3 in GT300. It's now pretty dominant in terms of the numerical side of things. You're a man that's got substantial number of yardsticks to judge this by. Tell us a bit about the capabilities of these cars now, here in 2019, compared to some of the machinery you were driving a decade and a half ago.
Well, now the circuit dependent, the GT3 cars are probably in Super GT spec, which basically means that they have the tyre belts.
Yep.
They're probably lapping around the same lap times. Like if Fuji Speedway were lapping the same lap times as the 500s were before, and the 500s then were a couple of hundred kilos lighter.
Yeah.
So it's actually the aero and the tyres have really came on leaps and bounds. Now at Suzuka we're still a little bit behind, but Suzuka is one of these circuits that the weight of the car really dictates the actual lap time. But now, for example, even the car life and parts life for Audi, or not just Audi, but GT3 cars in the Japanese series, it comes down because of how high grip it is. But with the tyre development here, it's like 5 seconds a lap faster than the controlled tyre, which is fantastic, but there's this tyre war going on. So it's a completely different concept and different way of racing, because all the focus is almost behind the tyre manufacturer, not the car itself. Which it's fun, but actually I've been really looking forward to this event because everybody's on the same tyre, and we can focus on our cars.
Sort of resets the clock.
It just resets it. So I've been looking forward to that, so that we can come and we're all on the same tyre and we all got an even platform. And the BOP, to be fair to the SRO, is actually really good. And many years ago, people were complaining a lot. We still do, I think, complain. But the reality is, if you look at most grids, it's covered by half a second, the top 20 cars. So to be able to do that from a turbocharged engine to a V10 engine with one that's initially was weighing 1300 to one that's weighing 1100 kilos, that's a big thing. So I think it's come on such a long way, GT3 racing, to make it so fair for all the car manufacturers. But as you say, at the moment, RD12, let's hope we can continue that through to the end of the weekend.
Let's wait and see. For now, Richard Lyons, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.
Audi Sport Customer Racing's Glitterati goes to Martin Kuehl, the director of Audi Sport Customer Racing here in Asia. Martin, the race is going on in the background. We can hear the cars rumbling by. Audi currently leading, another great battle underway for another strong position from one of the other cars. This is a huge event for Audi in Asia.
Absolutely, and it's great to see that we finally have such a internationally recognized field in an Asian endurance race that really gives justice to the market, which has been developing very well over the past years. So it's a great event to have.
Now, I was along at one of the press conferences that's featured throughout here, lots of manufacturer activation. 2 models launched in one of 2 huge hospitality setups on this very floor. 2 models launched into Japan. The manufacturers are taking this series of races very seriously. They're blue ribboned events, and that's what they're designed to do. From your perspective, looking after the sporting ambitions of the brand, tell me what it means to actually have a hook to hang that on with an international race before we get into talking about the domestic scene.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what we want, that we have international recognized platforms with the best drivers, the best teams from all over the world, where we can put also our own events to it. And especially here in Suzuka, we'd actually do a threefold activation. We have the Audi Sport headquarters with the factory entries on site. Then we have Audi Japan with their own activities and the car launches, and then the rest of the Customer Asia program is here with the Audi Sport R8 LMS Cup, our own brand cup. So we use this opportunity, and we are very happy that we can do this to really bring everything together from global to Asian exposure.
It's very clear that you and your team are very active. I've seen your guys and yourself around in the paddocks that I've inhabited around Asia, and there do seem to be an increasing number of opportunities to get cars out there and racing with the Blancpain product in Asia that's coming on strong, with Asian Le Mans series, with strong domestic products in a range of markets, including Thailand and including China, of course, getting bigger and bigger, and as well as here in Japan. just how good is the marketplace? We've always talked about this as being the untapped resource. It's not untapped now, is it?
No, it's really it's a growth market, and if we maybe go back a couple of years when we started our own Asian customer racing platform, we were quite early in the market. In 2012, we had the first Audi Sport R8 LMS Cup set up for China, and then from the second year we made it Pan-Asian. At that time, there was hardly any prestigious regional series, and if you then look back now at what happened since then. We had our involvement, but also others, and you have Blancpain Asia now being very successful. Also, as you mentioned, Thai Super Series has been developing very, very well over the past 2 years, I would say, and of course China. So yes, there's a huge opportunity for us to do even more here in the market. At the same time, I think we also need to mention that it's as it always is with new markets, maybe, that a lot of new things spring up, a lot of new series, and it's maybe also time to settle a little bit, that you have the best ones flourish, and that drivers and teams can concentrate on that.
One of the things that shows a maturing marketplace is some of the ambition that comes from some of these teams, and the bigger teams, the more successful teams, beginning to spread their wings. We're beginning to see some of the Asian GT3 teams look a little further afield than their home market or even the continental market. That's got to be a real buzz for you. I can see by the smile on your face that's a source of pride.
I think I've been working in Asia for many years now, and I know that there is a lot of capability and know-how within the Asian teams already. There are very good Asian teams, and we see it with various manufacturers, and they are drumming up their ambitions to actually also show it in other parts of the world, and I think it's a good development. And from our side, we can only, for example, say what Absolute Racing has been doing over the past years, and also doing here. With the 10-hour Suzuka 10-hour entry, as well as also the Chinese team TSRT, how they actually performing within their first Blancpain Asia season with us this year. It's great steps forward, and they're all looking forward to do more.
Lessons are learned whenever you walk into a new market, particularly with a new product. And I know that we've had conversations about the LMS Cup and the growth of that pretty rapid growth of that. Then the evolution of that and the introduction into competition with the GT4 car, which for various pretty regional reasons didn't take off in the way that GT3 did. What is the strategy for Cup moving forward? You've got a high quality entry, but a rather more compact entry than we've seen, in a marketplace where, as we just discussed, it is getting more crowded.
Yes. Well, actually, 2 years ago we made a decision that looking at the overall development of the industry in Asia, where you have a lot of good multi-OEM series which are great platforms, especially also for pro drivers, that we changed our own cup to a pure gentleman format, to give them actually a race where they compete against each other. I think if you look at the race history over the last 2 years, it has shown that this has been proven very competitive for them. They like it. We always had, and we have this year again, going to the final in Sepang, we will have 5 guys who can actually still win the title. So
they closed up dramatically this weekend.
Correct. That was our strategy as a brand to develop the cup towards the gentleman sector, knowing that the pros have a lot of other things to do at the moment in Asia, which is a good thing. And we're also involved there, of course, with Blancpain Asia and some sort of support for the teams there. Yes, and then we also introduced the GT4. And I agree with you, GT3 definitely is still the main GT car that attracts Asian buyers. Maybe it's also because it's the pinnacle of GT racing, and a lot of people who are here who actually spend the money to do proper GT racing on a high level. They really want to do it on the highest level and show what they are capable of, which is a good thing. And we don't yet have that maybe sports club or track culture in Asia as in other parts of the world. So for the GT4, it's a bit of different environment. But I wouldn't actually rule out that the sector will further grow, especially if you look at China GT. They have done a great job in actually not only building but also sustaining now in the second year a very good GT4 grid. And the future, I guess, also for GT4 is a regional series and not Pan-Asian is more complicated. Because in Asia you have to ship things around, so at the end of the day, whatever you put on a ship is there for a couple of weeks, and the logistic costs are maybe the same, even if the car and the running might be a little bit more economically, but a lot of other things are the same cost if you move around Asia. So a regional thing, I think, is still something, and China GT shows that it can be done.
In marketing terms, new is good, always. You've got two new things to deal with in the coming 12 months or so. The first is going to be a new product, of course, the latest product from Audi Sport Customer Racing, the LMS GT3. What a beast that looks. The second is a place to race them, which is the addition to the Blancpain GT package of the Sports Club. So a purely gentleman-based racing platform. For effectively sprint endurance for those cars, designed exactly for those cars against perhaps GT3 cars to start with, but it seems clear that the ambition is that will move to a kind of principally GT2 platform as soon as possible. We've obviously seen the car. We saw the car launched at Goodwood. I was happy to be there as part of that, and Marshall Pruitt, my co-host, was part of the festivities at Laguna Seca with Tom Christensen running the car in anger for the first time there. Your customers had the chance to see it. What kind of interest has there been in the new beast?
Well, the car is beautiful, and everybody who has seen it on picture, or some of our Asian clients actually went with us to Spa, where it was displayed. Everybody who saw it was like, "Whoa, that's mega!" Of course, they really love the looks. It's a beautiful car. In terms of having, but we need opportunities to run it. I think for us as Audi Customer Racing, we are producing cars that people actually run, put them on the circuit, and it's great ambition by SRO that they actually now announced already in Spa to have at least 3 races for the GT2 next year in Asia, and we are definitely hoping that we will see some Audis there on the track. At the moment, it's Porsche and us. Sister companies pushing this, and I still hope actually that there will be more, because for a functioning segment, I think we all need more.
Absolutely, and it's a very different car. I mean, we saw the Porsche. The Porsche is typically Porsche. I think one of my colleagues described Porsche looks like a kind of Gucci loafer, and your car looks like a high-end Nike trainer, and that's a good thing. Different is good.
Yeah, I mean, we were all very happy ourselves when we saw the first pictures of the car, or even the first drawings. I mean, it was like, wow, okay, something big is coming. But we have to put it onto the road. We have to support our customers in being able to put it onto the circuit, and we have to convince also the customers that it's not just a collector car or something that you put on a site somewhere, that you really should buy this one to race it against other gentlemen and have fun on a good weekend with a sprint race, which is also a very fitting format for this kind of guys.
If I were to ask you, if we're back here this time next year, and I hope we all are, what would you like to see in terms of your customers at this race? Not the European teams coming in with the IGTC, but your customers coming in and making a splash.
You mean for Suzuka 10 hours?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to see more Asian teams running high-profile entries. Of course, in our case, Audis. There are teams like Sun Motorsport ran an Audi last year in Macau. TZT is running, both are from China. TZT is running Grand Prix Asia. So the likes of this with Audis, and I think they're increasingly looking over the border of China. So to actually come here to such a race, which is like at the moment in terms of endurance, the pinnacle in Asia, would be something that I would really enjoy.
Fantastic. Let's hope we see it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Immediately following the race with two of the winning trio, Dries Vanthoor and Frédéric Vervisch, that was, I have to say, pretty dominant stuff. And I'm going to turn to you first, Frédéric. That was an awesome stint from you, your start of the race.
I mean, I think we mostly controlled the whole race, and of course we had some bigger advantages, but then with safety car for Cogello it came back. But we always had the pace, all three of us, which was really unique and really amazing to have such a strong car, such a strong driver lineup. And yeah, we didn't make mistakes. That was our biggest, let's say, challenge. Last year, I remember we had Dries, I think, at the end of his stint had a puncture, so we lost a potential podium. I mean, we would have been second probably. So, but this year we really had the pace, and we did a very clean race. The strategy was great. So I think it's really a team effort.
Dries, the challenge at this kind of level in the IGTC is always, with you see the guys around us in the room here, it's an awesome kind of lineup, is to be quick but to make no errors. And how tough is that when you're here on a track as challenging as this, with drivers as challenging as these guys are, and the cars as closely matched as they are?
Yeah, it's for sure not easy. I mean, if you, like you said, look at the driver lineups that were here, especially for this weekend, I think was very strong. Not only the lineup, but also the brands. I think they were all quite evenly matched to make a nice race out of it. And if, like you said, it's not easy to make no mistakes. If you saw the first 2 hours, unfortunately, the Volcanos BMW was unlucky and couldn't really avoid what happened in front of him, and it happens in a second. So it's for sure not easy, but that's part of our job, unfortunately. But I think we all three just did a good job making sure we had good pace and stayed out of trouble. And I think that's, again, like me and Fred will be happy enough or lucky enough to say that we also did this way in Nürburgring, just making no mistakes, and this is a big part of having a good race, I think.
There's lots of things that are important. One of the things that are important is having a very happy boss. You've got one just standing over behind us at the moment, with Chris Reinke having brought in a trophy dripping with champagne. The big results are coming. This one's particularly big because it's the first big race win for Audi Sport Customer Racing in Japan.
Yeah, and I think for Audi Sport, if I'm not incorrect, right. So it's really big. It's again we had a meeting this morning with all 6 drivers. And I want to say something about the other team. I'm really unfortunate that they had this issue. Otherwise, they would have been great to celebrate together. But he told us that they never had a big victory. And I said then, just as a joke, okay, no pressure added. But no, I'm really happy we can be part of this. There's only one first time to win in Japan for a brand, and it's great. It's really great. I think we will realize later, but it's great. We did. I mean, at the end, okay, it's a race like another. We did our job, and it's really nice.
Well, you guys are employed to bring home the big results, the big stories, the big headlines for Audi. That's what it's about. You've got to be pretty happy with your day's work.
Yeah, it's an amazing job. It's a dream job. It's always interesting to compare with Dries, because Dries is so young and I'm already older. But I'm also quite fresh in the factory stuff, and I'm really lucky. I feel really blessed that I still in the motorsport and have a great job. And I'm fortunate to drive with these young guns, him, Kelvin, and yeah, it's really nice.
Nice words.
Nice words from the old man there. It's, Dries, this does seem to be a group, and it is a group of drivers, interchangeable between the cars, that is knitting beautifully. Audi Sport have got a real depth of experience, as well as younger guys coming in like yourself. What's it like to be in the middle of this at the moment, with the new 2019 car, with the results coming, with programs coming forward, with the IGTC bringing you to new and exciting places? Here at Suzuka, next it's Kyalami and Kelvin's home race. Must be a bit of a buzz.
Yeah, of course, and I think it's not only us three, the group. I think there was a whole group back behind the scenes, all working very hard back in Germany, which is of course helping to this success. But yeah, it's going well at the moment, and I'm, like Fred already said, very happy and fortunate that I, at quite a young age, can be doing this as a job. So I think we have to be very happy that we can be able to be here, and like you said, going to Kyalami, going to all over the world actually, to try to race as hard as we can and battle the others and try to beat the others, which at the moment worked for this time, but we'll have to see for the next time how it goes there.
Final question is to both of you, both proud Belgians. WRT, an amazingly successful team. I had the privilege of chatting to Pierre Dieudonne earlier this week. This is a hell of a story for Belgian motorsport, the Team WRT success story.
Yeah, I think I had a chance to race for them this year, much less, but nevertheless I drove Daytona with them. We had a podium in 24 hours, so that was actually their first entry, my first entry, and was quite successful. But no, they're definitely the leading Audi Customer Racing team, and so it's always great when you know you can drive with them and attack here the 10 hours or another race. But I think Dries drove more with them and can maybe tell you a bit more about them. But
it's a Belgian institution.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like my second home actually, and Vincent is a bit like my second dad. And, Lyons have been driving for this team. I was here when I was with WRT when I was a younger kid, watching all the people and watching Lyons drive, and I was just quite young. So I know all of them, and I know Vincent, like I said, he's the second dad for me, and I can tell him everything, and we can have a good chat about everything. And it's just working well with WRT and the Belgian. I think Fred is also, I think we can be very happy that we can drive for WRT. Like Fred said, I think it's one of the, not only in customer racing, but also compared to the other teams, I think it's just a very professional team which knows how to do the job and executes the job most of the time perfectly.
Well, and gentlemen, great result for you, for both of you, for Kelvin, for Audi Customer Racing, for Team WRT. More pages in the history book, and we move on now to a new adventure in South Africa. For now, that's it from us.